Turning points. So today is going to be kind of an important discussion and topic. We do have the FOMC later this afternoon. So, we're kind of thinking, is that going to be more of the same? Which it probably is as far as what their messaging is going to be. The question after that, though, is what are we going to do about it? What is the market going to do about it? It's already factored in, so they're like, great, buy the rumors, sell the news. It's already happening. Or is it going to be like, hey, more of the same. They're still going to be giving money. They're going to still be printing money. Let's keep this ride going. So it's a little bit unsure of how it's going to be reacting between, it's already baked in or, yeah, let's keep the party going. So let's kind of keep that in mind as we go forward. I think right now it seems as everything is kind of doing some pulling back, in anticipation of the FOMC. And then also we're just really super high. So let's kind of take a look at here. And then just a little housekeeping. Remember to subscribe, hit the alert button, all that kind of stuff. Imram, yeah, good to see you guys. That way you can get in here and then you get the alerts and whatnot. And then we also have Sarah, who's going to be helping me post a lot of links in here for the I don't know, the various links of where we can go to find more about the writings that I have, the newsletters, and any other kind of material that we put out. So let's kind of continue on and get going with that. Now, as far as the S&P goes, if anybody's familiar with the trading style that I have, actually let me do one more thing to make sure that you all can see this, because I want to make sure that the font is big enough. So let me just get that real quick right there, and then we'll be ready to rock and roll. Okay, so hopefully that's a little bit better out there. I know that sometimes the bit rate that comes through isn't the greatest. On our end, we're putting out as much as we can, so it's just going to be kind of a internet and YouTube / Facebook / whatever program we're running on, and how much they can actually send across. Now, when it comes to the market and kind of price movements in general, I like to use the ATR bands, and what you can see here is that we actually jumped outside of the daily third ATR. That's great. We had a really good run. I had a really great week last week. I had a really good Monday. Since then, things have been starting to kind of pull back and kind of take some time off. The other thing that we can see is if we zoom in more closely on this daily chart, even just from a natural price standpoint, I talk about this a lot. The distance between price and the moving average, that is a big gap. So price is doing a great job going way up like that, but when you get a gap like that, it just becomes unsupported, and oftentimes price wants to come back down. And if this is the market we're talking about, well, if the market wants to come back down pretty hard, then it's going to be pulling a lot of other things down pretty hard too. So we did pull in a lot of profits. We're trying to be judicious about the entries that we take going forward and seeing what we can do about that. The other thing that I typically talk about is, in addition to the daily chart, is on the hourly. When price gets too far away from the hourly 50, which you can see here, it tends to want to come back down to it. So just the fact that what we're trying to show is this is very, very high, and that leaves us unsupported. That's kind of where we're going with that one. Let me turn that light off. All right. And then the other thing we can see through the 15-minute time frame, and I kind of saw this coming yesterday, when price, again, too far away from the 50, even on the 15-minute time frame, goes there, and then it comes up, and it just looked like it was going to kind of fall off of that. And sure enough, that's what it did today. Now, where are we going to go from here? Well, it looks like it's trying to slow down a little bit, maybe coming in here. I wouldn't be surprised if we keep seeing some downside. Now, maybe we get a bounce, and then that bounce takes us into resistance, and then we roll over. So we need to be prepared for kind of either direction. Let me show you the IWM as the indication of what that looks like. Notice here on the 15-minute time frame, and I'll just zoom in on all of the time frames too so we can see it. There we go. Now notice on the 15-minute time frame, see how price got rejected right at the underside of the 15-minute 50. That is important right there. And I saw that on some of our individual stocks that we were trading. So I'll go in and I'll show you that too. And notice how high price was over the hourly 50, and it was outside of 30 ATR, and same thing on the daily chart. This is just way up there. Very, very, very far up there. And then let's go with the Qs, since we're talking about all the general markets. And yeah, everyone's talking about Index 10,000. Maybe it's round numberitis. that number one, it's a magnet. Number two, when it hits it, everyone's like, oh, okay, we got a big number there. That's it. It's human nature a little bit that round numbers tend to, I don't know, they attract and scare us at the same time. Once again, look at this. We've gone into kind of exuberance mode, and we're up here at the outer third daily ATR. Last time we did that was back here. Now, it wasn't the end of the trend, and we don't know if this is the end of the trend yet, but there was a significant pullback when it did hit that. And any other time that it's gotten close, it's done a significant pullback. So just be prepared. Be prepared for something like that. The other thing I have been talking about a long time, especially for the Qs, is anytime price gets too far away from the hourly 50, it tends to pull back. And you can see that here and here. And I'll just keep drawing it, like right there. And then now look at where we are. That's a pretty big circle. So, if I look at this, it's just that it seems likely and timely that price is getting pretty far up there. And also we've been pushing so hard that price is starting to pull away from even the 15-minute 50. And when you start getting kind of an exuberance like this last little thrust even on the 15-minute time frame, that is significant. And it starts leaving itself a little bit unsupported. All right, so let me know if you guys have any kind of questions, any particular tickers that you want to be looking at as we go through this. Let me know. And that way I also know that the chat box is working. It's always good to make sure our technology is doing what it needs to do. So here's a really, really good example. Here's GoGo. We made at least 50% on this one from here. We took some off here, and then we took the rest of it off right there. So, taking it off on the way up. This is something that even on Facebook and YouTube, when I'm here with you guys on Wednesday, this is something I talk about. That when something keeps moving up and up and up, and almost at this, oh my gosh, I can't believe how good this is type situation, that it's important to keep pulling price off because it just doesn't stay that way forever. So you always need to kind of make sure that works. Thanks, Sean. Yeah. So here we go. Price too far away from the hourly 50. Price too far away from the daily 8. And how did we see that? Well, yesterday, price got underneath the 15-minute 50. And that's my cue. And that's where we said, yep, let's get out of this one. Let's pocket our stuff and call it good. And then Goose was another one like this. Now I was trying a little aggressive. I did this after earnings. I thought, maybe there'd be a little bit more here. I thought maybe kind of move a little bit quicker. And, I had some good moves. It was decent. We got a few percent, and then I got out at the same reason. You can see this is the same exact situation as GoGo right there. So very happy that I took that off and did that. Joe, let's see. Let's Chewy, C-H-W-Y. See if I can spell that right. C-H-W-Y. All right. Now, generally, I would be saying yes, this thing should be going up. I don't like to trade earnings, and this is this isn't terrible, but this is a good reason as to why I don't trade earnings because, well, it didn't go anywhere. So if you were to, I don't know what the IV was, the implied volatility on Chewy was going into earnings, but I imagine it was elevated, meaning that if you bought something on Chewy expecting this thing to explode or to really go up because of earnings, and it didn't, based on stock, you probably wouldn't be losing money because it's about where it left off yesterday, but the implied volatility suddenly goes away and collapses because the event is over. The volatility that the market makers had to build into the options suddenly goes away because now the event, the unknown, is known, and look, it didn't go anywhere. So that's why I don't like to play earnings. You have to play different strategies if you're going to be doing hourly, something like that. Now, Joe, to your point, price is here. It looks like it's bouncing off of the hourly 50. The Moxie indicator is still above 0, and we do have price above the 15-minute 200. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if, I got the market on my other screen over here. I wouldn't be surprised that if we see the market kind of start to weaken and maybe roll over a little bit or need to trade sideways or something like that, just start to kind of pull back down, then Chewy might need to be doing the same thing. It may not really be too excited to go anywhere right now. It's had a really good move, And yes, it's at support, but it's also going to need some market support, and we're just going to have to wait and watch and see if that happens. So my parameters probably for you would be, hey, let's make sure price stays above the 15-minute 200, and let's see if price can stay above the 15-minute or the hourly 50. And worst case scenario, let's hope that it doesn't break what 48 and change. So I think that's if you're going to be looking at going long on Chewy, I think that's what we need to be looking at. So GNRC, that's Generac, right? Upcoming hurricane season, perhaps? All right, not bad on the daily chart. Generally, it's an uptrend, but what I'm seeing, and I've kind of been looking at this too, is I'm wondering if there's still too much distance between price and the daily 50. You know, a lot of times I look at that and say, that's unsupported on the daily chart. And so now I need to go down to the hourly chart and say, well, is it going to continue to be supported by the hourly chart? And in my world, so Nathan, for me and how I trade and with my indicator and all this kind of stuff, the price should not be over the 50, which it is right there, with the Moxie indicator below 0. So that is what I call an inverse trampoline move. It's basically out of phase. You know, price shouldn't be up there. And I can show you an example of this. So just be aware that that may not work out right now. It might work later, but it might not work right now. If it starts to fall off of the hourly 50, then just be kind of prepared if it wants to go down a little bit. I'll show you two different examples. One of them is W. And you can see here that it had a pullback, and then it kind of continued to work out. So that's why I'm saying with Generac, just be careful that this initial move may not work. It might have to try again. Here you can see price over the hourly 50 and the Moxie indicator below 0. And what it's doing is it's trying to find some support here. So that's a situation that's going on there. If price can stay over the 15-minute 50, and if price can stay over the hourly 50, then great. But be prepared that if Generac, along with W, if they start to roll over and can't hold this stuff, then you need to get out. And I think Shopify is also a good example of that. Yeah, look at this. So there's, you know, these things are really, really high. Now they may not implode, you know, they may not really roll over and dive bomb, but they may go sideways for quite some time until they really get themselves figured out. And for Shopify, you can see the same thing. Price should not be over, oops, pushing buttons on my pen. Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below 0. And you can see for this one, it did not hold the 15-minute 50, and it did not hold the hourly 50, and so it fell back over. Now, it didn't implode, didn't go down drastically, terribly. It did do a double bottom. It is trying to find support at the hourly 200, and I don't know, roughly the daily 21, not so much that, but you know, just trying to find that level, and it's trying to hold. But now we wonder, can this hold again? Because now you do have price at the underside, you know, right there debating what is it going to do with the hourly 50. And at least in my world, with the Moxie indicator still below 0, it's not a good trade for me. Now, where I will say that there are some exceptions have been in the FANG stocks. You know, we'll take a look at Facebook, because Facebook, and this is where I blend my trading style, and I'm willing to take some trades based on the 15-minute time frame. So where I talk about this is, if I don't like what's happening on the hourly, but I do see something on the 15, I will take it, but I'll make sure it's tight, because if it doesn't work out on the 15, then I got to really change my tune. So right here, you know, again, price should not be over the 50 if the indicator is below 0, which it is. So that condition is existing. But then what happened is we actually got a pretty good setup here on the 15. You see here on Facebook how price actually ran right into an uptrending 15-minute 50, and on the 15-minute time frame, the Moxie indicator looked pretty good, and it moved up. Now the concern I have, and we don't really know if this is going to work or not yet, is price should not be over the 50 if the indicator is below 0. It could be an issue. Maybe this is going to be a double top right there, but the thing that we can use as a metric to see if this is going to work out is you follow the 15-minute time frame. Does price hold the 15-minute 50? If it does, okay, then maybe this thing keep pushing up a little bit further, kind of like Amazon and some of the other ones that are running. If it doesn't, then the hourly chart is going to be what's strong, and that's going to actually start pulling things back down and over. All right, so Imran, let's see, you were talking about VIX. So the VIX is falling, even though the market seems heavy, and Powell has a press conference later today. Why is that? Well, that's the FOMC plus his press conference. We need to be careful that this isn't setting up for necessarily a 1-2 punch. So you got to think of a typical stock. So VIX isn't always typical, but sometimes it still in certain ways follows the same kind of procedures. So think of this as this was a normal stock, and initially you could take a trade off of the 15-minute 50 right there. So price got over the 15-minute time frame, Moxie indicator was trending up, all that kind of stuff, and it moved. Now, what does it need to do next? It either needs to keep following the 15-minute time frame up, or it needs to engage with the next highest level, which is the hourly time frame. And what have we done? We've only crossed up through a downtrending hourly 50. And we've seen this before. We've seen this picture before, and what we need to do is then figure out if price is going to come down and find support, or maybe come down here and then go back up. Otherwise, it's going to keep rolling over. The other thing I like to talk about a lot, let me kind of move this around so we can see that. You see how, since this is in a downtrend, every time price moves up, it runs into the 21. Right there. So right there, it keeps running into the 21. So it had its big move, ran into some stuff. You can also see here on the hourly chart, you see how price is outside of the third ATR. So even for the VIX, there was a move from low to high, but it already had its move. So now it needs to pull back, and what we need to figure out later is this setting up for something bigger, or is this just going to roll over and go down again? What I'm concerned about is if price comes down here, does a double bottom, holds, and then starts to go up, that's going to be something more legitimate. And you know the thing I talk about with the daily 8 and 21 moat, so we need to be paying attention to that. Let me just take a look at UVXY and see if there is anything a little bit. Yes, UVXY, basically the same thing. I like to look at it sometimes, it can be a little bit clearer. Yeah, hey Sam, how's it going, guys? Thanks for tuning in. As I said, remember to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. That way you get notifications when this thing's coming on. So yeah, price is running up into a downtrending moving average. You don't want to trade the X. And we are also running right into a downtrending 15-minute 200. So these parameters, these metrics are telling me that for right now, it doesn't seem like the market wants to keep going down and down and down. But it is something we need to keep an eye on in case these things change a little bit. Now let me kind of go back over to the SPY and talk about a few things now that we've done that. So we are still in an uptrend. We don't know what kind of pullback this is going to do though. We don't know, is this just going to hold here and go sideways until the moving average comes up, and then you're going to get price coming here and then back up? We don't know. We don't know. And that's what we need to be kind of cautious and prepared for, because we don't know what price is going to do. Let me see. Yeah, we don't know what price is going to do like this. And what it could always do, it can always do something different. Come here, go down, come up, and then roll over. Anything like that. So we don't have enough information right now. We are underneath the 15-minute 50, but we have not gotten rejected by the 15-minute 50 yet. Let me show you IWM one more time so you can see exactly what I'm talking about right here. You guys see how price got rejected by the 15-minute 50? This is something we need to look for and watch out for and be aware of. If we see something like that, just like GoGo and Goose, that's something that is very drastic and we really do need to watch out for. But until then, we could, with the S&P, we could just get moves down to the 50. And we can get sideways. We don't really know. But we need to watch out for that. And about the 15-minute time frame is about the best thing I have for something like that. Alright, then let's kind of go over some of the other ones that I've been looking at. SNDR. Now, if you're looking at maybe some safer, a little bit slower, something that can kind of put in your account so that you don't have to maybe ride out all of the really big swings of the market. Schneider Trucking looking pretty good. I like what's happening here. The 8 and 20 over is 21, very large. That's looking good. We just had price pull back to the 21, looking pretty good. There's a double bottom right there. The Moxie indicator did just barely cross below 0, but now it looks green and wants to turn back up. And this 15-minute time frame, here's a 15-minute setup. There's your double bottom. There's your positive divergence. And look at the indicator looking nice and tight, and we're back over the 15-minute 50. So it looks to me like something like SNDR should be pretty good as far as a kind of a good kind of, you know, feather in the cap type thing that you can kind of put there, and hopefully that'll add some nice stability to your overall performance. Yeah, and let's see. Take a look at some of the other ones. ASNA. Still hanging in this one. I don't see anything wrong yet. I would have preferred that today price stay over the 15-minute 50. That didn't happen. The rest of the market decided to come back down. But so far, price is still over the hourly 50, and price is still flat into the daily 8. So I look at this one and say, hey, if we can keep kind of maintaining this 15-minute 200, hourly 50, something like that, then I'm going to want to be staying in something like this. It was a really good mover, and I'm hoping it's not just going to be a one-time flash in the pan. As an example, let me show you, let's see, where'd all my lists go? As an example of some of the things that I want to be looking at, take a look at Tupperware. This is what I'm looking at when I look at something like ASNA. You know, if we can kind of hold here and hold over the hourly 50, if we can get just a little something like that and then go, I'm going to be very excited about that, and that's what I want to try and get into. Now, that doesn't mean it was super easy. You know, this is where price broke the hourly 50. That's why I'm talking about right now. I'm looking at the hourly 50, and I'm trying to make sure price stays over that, because as long as price can stay over that, then I'm good. But if it doesn't, or if it gets rejected by it, then yeah, got to get out of it. Let me show you one more, kind of along those lines. Oh, let's see. Is this going to be what I want to show? That didn't quite. Here, let's try this one. A little bit better. So if we can kind of get something that's real exciting like this, let me kind of open this up for you so you can see where this actually started. If we can get something like this, you know, this is where I need to be careful. If price starts to fail through the hourly 50, then you got to get out, because the next thing happens is price gets underneath the hourly 50, and then there's a big move down, and that's going to be real uncomfortable. But as long as price then stays over the hourly 50, I'm just going to be going with it and say, hey, I think we're going to be okay with it. All right. Let's look at some of the other ones. So QTT. Yep, I'm happy with QTT. This is what I call a trampoline move. So a trampoline move is when price is below the hourly 50 or below the 50, it doesn't matter what time frame, and the Moxie indicator is still above 0. You can see 0 is right there. So that means that momentum and energy is still positive, and that buoyancy, like energy buoyancy, is still to the long side, and that it wants to go up. But then what happened is price pulled back too drastically, too stiff, and actually got below the moving average. So if you didn't have the Moxie indicator, you might think, oh, this isn't good because it failed the 50 SMA. But because of the way I can see things and what's going on with the Moxie indicator, what this is showing me is that buoyancy is still to the up, and these can actually be some really big moves, some very high compression, high buoyancy trades. And you can see here, I'm looking at this, it got close to where my stop was, but I'm seeing a double bottom right in through here. And if this thing can continue and get back on top of the 15-minute 50, I'm happy with it. So it's looking great. Let's see, XXII. We're playing in some of the riskier area, but that's where some big moves are. And what I want to be seeing about this one is there's been some big volume coming in. So number one, what we've been seeing, you know, look at the airlines, look at the casinos, look at, I'm trying to think of all the other ones, cruise lines and retail. They've been having similar moves like this, to where they either break past the daily 50 and then just go, or they break past the 50, the daily 50, they kind of, you know, got up there too high, and then they kind of pulled back a little bit, and then they find support at the daily 50, and then they take off. And that's what this one looks like. So I see that it's had its one move, it's been percolating for a little bit, bounced off the daily 50, and then took off on volume. And I'm looking at this saying, well, if there's a lot of volume following something like this, then I want to get into it and follow it. And I imagine, you know, this is just my observation, but the fact that it didn't work out the first time means that usually the second time it does tend to work out. So I'm looking at this thing, and if this can hopefully get back on top of the 15-minute 50 by the end of today, then I'm happy with it. And then if I remember, if I saw just before I came on, BILL, it did pop up a little bit. I'm going to need this one to stay on top like this. I need this to stay on top of the 15-minute 50 at this point, and I'm looking for this to be divergence from there and a high squeeze, and hopefully this thing pops to the upside. So real close on this one. It's seeming okay. It came up later this actually just a little bit ago, and as long as it keeps doing that, then I'll be great with it. All right. Hey, Laredo. Yeah, good to see you, man. Yep, I'm here in Austin, Texas, and actually I'll be going back up to Washington in just a few more days. There's more to do up there with my family and everything. Since everything's so closed down, I figured I might as well be spending time with my family. All right, so Sean, let's see. BDRY. Maybe I'll take a note on some of these. See, yeah, you're kind of getting into the right area. Let's see, BDRY. You got to be careful with some of these. The divergences are there. I see that the Moxie price trigger is there, and look at this. You even have, lo and behold, trampoline move. So good job on finding that one. Right there, trampoline move. Looking pretty good. Just be careful with the volume on this one. It looks like it's on average 100,000. So that's something that I can't, publicly recommend because that volume is just a little bit too low. So be careful with that. And then GLBS. Volume's a little bit better on this, and yep, this thing also just bounced off of the daily 50, so GLBS. I just like to take a lot of notes on these things so I can watch them. And then look here, you can see price is back over the hourly 50 with the Moxie price trigger. Now it does have earnings, just be careful about that. And then let's see, okay, and then what I will show, GME. Now GameStop has literally a 100% short interest. So if any of you understand short interest, it means that there are a lot of people who are short, and when you need to get out of a short, you need to buy. You need to basically buy back your short position. So not only does that, what that means is when the stock starts to go up, obviously there are people buying it because it's going up. And then that means that, when people who are short are wrong and they need to get out, they have to buy the stock in order to get out. So now you have two forces buying the stock, which can really just add a whole lot of fuel to the fire when it comes to a stock move. Now, GameStop has apparently 100% short interest. That's a lot, so obviously. And then we have a daily trampoline move. So price is below the daily 50. The Moxie indicator is above 0. We have a squeeze, and we had a squeeze back here. And then what you can see is price was level, and look at the Moxie indicator turning up like this. Now, I wanted to wait till after earnings. And you can see that I actually had a bit of a pop on earnings. So I'm going to wait and see if there's another opportunity to kind of get in on something like this one. I'm not too concerned about, I don't know, hopefully I'm not wrong about missing it right now. This morning, though, was a fine opportunity if you were quick. So earnings came out, I could see in the overnight, didn't really move too much, and this morning you could see it opened up right at the 15-minute 50 and then took off. So that one looked alright. It is a little extended on the hourly chart. I'd love to see this thing kind of, I don't know, pull back a little bit sometime, but so keep an eye on GME and see what's going on. Oh yeah, let's take a look at net. Net's been real challenging. You can see that I've tried trading in the past. I gotta pick stocks that kind of work for my brain and my eyes, and something like this just is super uncomfortable. Now, maybe on the daily chart, other than this little bit right there, it's been doing a great job following the daily 50, okay? And the 8 has been over to the 21 the whole time. On the hourly chart, boy, this thing is tough. It doesn't want to follow the 50, which is what I typically prefer. I mean, that thing is all over the place, and the Moxie indicator is virtually unreadable on the hourly chart. So I made a few bucks off this thing in the past, and then after that I just stayed away because I could tell that this stock was just all over the place and was not conducive to my kind of trading. You could also see that generally it's following the hourly 200, so if you can use these kind of parameters and metrics to figure out a trade for you, great. But boy, I got to stay away from this thing because it just doesn't work for me. Alright, I'll look at one more, then I got to get going. Let's see, RCL. Yeah, with these things, a lot of these names are doing the same thing. So everything I've kind of mentioned, airlines, casinos, cruise, retail, hotels, they all had massive moves, and now they're all coming back down. It's just kind of like what we talked about with the market with the IWM. You know, price was too far away from the hourly 50, price was too far away from the daily 8. Doesn't this look exactly like the market and everything? So when you get price too far up like that, it wants to come back down and fill that gap. And you can see that started when price got rejected by the underside of the 15-minute 50. Now, I would like to say that price should bounce off of the hourly 50, you know, the Moxie indicator's above 0, but I got to wait to actually make sure that that's going to happen. And for me, the best way that I do to make sure that that is in fact going to happen is I wait for price to get back on top of the 15-minute 50. If you can kind of see these examples right here, I wait to see price get kind of on top of the 15-minute 50, and right now price is underneath the 15-minute 50. So while it should bounce off of this, I want to see confirmation, and that's where I see the confirmation. So, alright guys, that is my time. I don't want to be going too long for all this. Just be careful out there, the market is extended, and we need to see what kind of other surprises with the FOMC that we have coming out there right now. So remember to subscribe, like, you know, come out, check out my website and all my social medias and stuff. We're going to be posting some links on that. That way you guys can follow along. I do put out a lot of content that I write, and so hopefully it works out for everybody. And if you're interested in either my alert service or the Moxie indicator based on how I trade, we're going to be putting those links in there as well. So thanks again, guy. Luis, Teresa, yeah, Glock, sorry I couldn't get to some of you guys. Save it up for next week, and I'll be here again on Wednesday.